Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Paws in Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. So earlier this week, I asked on my Instagram story if you guys preferred when I answered your questions live. So unprepared, as in I haven't prepared answers to them. I don't know what I'm going to say until now, or whether I prepared answers before I sat down to record and, wrote out a script and followed that for the episode. And I did expect this, and most of you preferred live, unprepared answers. So that's really good because I'm not going to lie, today I've had the busiest weekend. I went down to Bournemouth over the weekend and then I was judging at Dog Sports Derby yesterday. So I literally had Thursday, after last week's episode came out. On Wednesday I had Thursday, which was a normal day. Didn't think about the podcast because I thought it's literally next Wednesday. I don't normally think about it until at least the weekend. And then Friday, I was at college, obviously doing my grooming course. Then Saturday, Sunday, I was in Bournemouth. Then yesterday, I was judging at Dog Sports Derby. And then it gets to today, which is a normal day. And I'm like, oh, I don't have an episode for tomorrow. So it's Tuesday and I'm recording. I asked you guys last week to give me your questions about getting started in agility, as I've had a few people say, I want to get into agility. I don't do it yet. How do you even get into it? I don't know where to start, because there is a lot involved and I understand that it can be quite overwhelming. So today I'm just going to be answering your questions live, which is great because, like I just said, I have not had time to prepare my answers anyway. So this was going to be live whether you liked it or not. So I haven't prepared answers, so it's possibly going to be a bit of a slower paced, instead of a quick fire, slower paced answers. That was Ethel yawning. She is sat next to me right now. So I'm going to be talking about things like finding a trainer, making progress, and forming friendships as well. So 15 questions that you guys asked me on Instagram about getting started in agility, unprepared answers, and let's get into it. So question 1 is, how did you get into agility? So this is going back to when I was 8. I got Earl when I was 8, and I took him to an obedience club, because obviously wanted to train my dog, and you kind of have to train a dog if it's going to live with your family, So I did that for about a year, and then my obedience trainer was like, oh, you should try agility. And I was like, oh, yeah, go on then. I'd also read a children's book like a year before I got Earl, so I was like 7, and it was about a girl who got into agility with her dog. So I knew it was a thing, and I thought, oh, that'd be cool. But I didn't really think much of it until it was offered to me at this obedience club. So I started classes every Sunday, and then I got invited onto the display team with Earl, and that was every Thursday. So I was doing agility twice a week, loving it. Then when Earl was 3, I think he was, I started competing with him, got him to grade 6, and then the rest is history. Obviously got Ethel, got Arrow, Team GB, all the things happened after that. But that is pretty much how I got into agility. I also used to have Nintendogs, which you could do agility on, and I thought I was sick at that. I used to win every single one, and I loved it, and I was like, oh, you know what? This would be great to do in real life. I was winning all the champ tickets on the Nintendo. So I was like, yeah, you know what? This would be cool to do in real life if it's a thing. And obviously it was, and there you go. So that is sort of my background of how I got into agility. So number 2 is a good one. It's, what do you look for in a trainer? So obviously I train with Lucy Norton. She is my ideal trainer. Not only is she 5 minutes away from me, which is great. I know it's probably not what you thought I'd say, but one thing is, where they're based. I am not one to travel probably over an hour for a regular trainer, as in like every week. That just seems a bit much. Maybe that's because I've never had to do that. But look in your area, first of all, where you can get to and from at the times that the classes are, or, so just look at trainers near you for a start. Once you've found one that you are able to travel to, because let's be honest, there could be a trainer 6 hours away that is the perfect trainer to you and exactly what you look for in a trainer. But are you going to go to them? No, because they're 6 hours away. So yeah, find trainers in travelling distance, that you must be willing to travel to them and back every week, if it's every week, or, on a regular basis, because really you do want to be training regularly when you get into agility. Otherwise you will struggle to make progress very quickly. And a lot of people can then sort of get, they can be put off by it, thinking they're not making progress fast enough. They can get not bored, but sort of not complacent. maybe a bit bored, just thinking, well, nothing's happening, what's the point? And obviously you're spending money, you are going to and from the training, but if it's not regular, you're unlikely to see tons of progress very quick, and that can put you off and sort of lower that motivation level that you need to get started in anything really. But once you've found those trainers, I would look for someone who is, especially if you're young, look for someone who is compassionate and understanding for a start. You obviously want someone that's going to support you and be positive and lift you up and encourage you, instead of, stay away from anyone who is sort of seems a bit harsh, a bit demanding, a bit, you don't want someone who will sort of belittle you or scold you almost if you make mistakes, so we're good judges of character as people usually, so just by meeting them you should be able to tell what kind of person they are, how they talk to you, and then see if you can watch a few classes maybe of theirs and see how they interact with their clients. You want someone really positive. You also want someone who does have some experience, so look, research, ask them, look into this person, search their name up on all the things online, see if you can find them. So you do want someone that has had success in the thing they're training you to do, obviously. So just see what their achievements are, see if they've got qualifications, but most importantly, see what experience they have and what results they've gained for themselves, because that is usually a good indicator that they know how to achieve that greatness, and they can basically teach you the way because they've done it before. And if you can do what they did, then that's perfect. So definitely look for background. And that's it really, there's so many good trainers, but yeah, you just need to vibe with them as well. Like, you're not going to like everyone and everyone's not going to like you, but some people you just do vibe with. You want someone you can have a little bit of a laugh with, but mostly someone who is really positive and encouraging and knows what they're doing, as in they have achieved results before and actually, they can prove that they have that experience. And yeah, that is pretty much what I look for in a trainer personally. So number 3 is similar. It's how do you know if a trainer is right for you and your dog? So I've already said what I look for in a trainer, as in they're right for me. But for you and your dog, this is a strange question. Because again, I suppose it can depend. I suppose some trainers may have had breeds that are the same as your dog. So, for example, if a trainer had worked with a terrier before and you had a terrier, you could think, oh, this person knows this breed of my dog. They'll be able to help me, train past the characteristics of a terrier, the stubbornness, stuff like that. So that could always be a good indicator, but I wouldn't go purely on that. But I think, again, yeah, you just need to see if you vibe with them. Watch the classes, 100%, and just see how they interact. Like I said in the last question, you'll know if you feel welcome, if you feel positive when you're in that environment, then they are probably right for you. And as far as your dog goes, again, it depends on your dog's character. So if you have a nervous dog, see how they work with nervous dogs or sort of dogs that are lower motivation. If you have a low motivation dog, you definitely need a trainer that is good at bringing drive out of nervous or unmotivated dogs. So watch how each trainer does that. Try and watch the classes and make sure that they can do that, because that's what you are going to be wanting. If they've only ever worked with really highly strung dogs, then they might not know how to approach your dog, and vice versa. If you've got a really highly strung dog, but this trainer doesn't have much experience with highly strung dogs, and super crazy dogs, and only really works with dogs that are on the lower motivation scale, then just see if they specialize in a type of dog and type of dog personality, not just breed, like I said, because even breeds, a group of dogs of the same breed are still all different. So your dog, so see how trainers interact with dogs that are just like your dog. And that is pretty much how you'll know if the trainer is right for your dog. So covered both you and your dog in those 2 questions. So number 4 is, how often do you have to train in order to be successful, in your opinion? So this is very broad. Obviously, again, it depends on you and your dog. Some dogs learn faster than others, same as some handlers learn faster than others, and some take longer to pick things up than others, handler and dog wise. And again, no judgment, that's just how it is, and you just got to work with that, accept how you and your dog are and work with that. In my opinion, you need to train at least once every fortnight, so once every 2 weeks, really, to see any substantial progress. If you train every month, you probably are going to make progress in the end, but it's going to be such a long road that, like I said earlier, you will probably feel very deflated and unmotivated. So ideally every week, I train once a week, but I think you can do once every 2 weeks and still see progress in a decent amount of time. And also, it's the same as saying, use it or lose it. If you go ages without training, then you will be a bit sort of, rusty when you get back. Same as your dog. If your dog goes really long between agility sessions and loves it, they're probably going to be a bit mental next time you come back, which will affect how much they take in that session, and the cycle will just continue. But obviously you don't have to go to a actual training group all the time. You could maybe train once every 3 weeks if you wanted, but you could do 2 or 3 garden sessions a week, doing little skills and stuff. So I think I made a lot of progress with Arrow, especially when you're getting into agility. I think that's the difference. I think when you're first getting into agility, you need to be doing kind of more. Once your dog has all those basics, then you don't need to train quite as often, I think, once all the skills and foundations are there. But before they're there, you really need to sort of crack down on those and do them regularly to make sure that solid foundation and understanding is there in your dog. Otherwise, they are likely to forget what they learned in the last training session, and you'll just find that you are taking more steps back than you are forward. You're having to remind your dog of a few weeks ago's training, which obviously stops you moving on to the next part of that training that specific thing. So yeah, really, I'd say when you're getting started agility, once a week or once a fortnight, but do more at home. So do little sessions in the garden, probably 3 times a week if you can. Again, doesn't have to be big sessions either, like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever your dog, can manage, your dog. And again, it depends what you do and how much time you have. But when you're first getting started in agility, that is what I would recommend. Again, it also depends what you want to achieve out of agility. Do you just want to train and do it for fun, or do you want to end up competing? And do you have goals like Team GB Olympia? If you have big goals and want to compete, you should be training more. I think if you just want to do it for fun, then you don't have to train that. It doesn't matter what you do because you're just doing it for fun, if that makes sense. But to be successful, then yeah, that is what I would recommend. So, number 5, what are your tips for training a young puppy in preparation for agility? There is so much that goes into this question. I cannot answer it in full because I will be here for 4 hours, at least, probably more like 10 hours. But I'd say my biggest piece of advice for training a young puppy that is going to be an agility dog is don't rush, basically. Not only can it be detrimental for your dog's body, so joints and ligaments and muscles and tendons and stuff like that, if you do too much, you can't be jumping or weaving till a certain age, a year, 18 months. And then obviously if you break your dog rushing, then you're not going to be able to do agility anyway with it. Not only is that just terrible for your dog to be in that pain, but you won't be able to do agility anyway. So it really is a lose-lose. Don't do that. And also it takes the fun out of it. If you rush and think, oh, I've got to, get my puppy to be champ level by 2, some people can do that, trainers can do that and stuff, but most people don't need to do that. Don't rush, just let your puppy be a puppy. You will find that you both enjoy the training process way more. So that is my biggest piece of advice. But another thing is another thing that is quite similar to that, not only don't rush time-wise, but don't rush as far as don't jump into the really hard stuff too soon. Keep it basic, get the foundations there. A lot of foundation agility training doesn't seem to have anything to do with agility. You do most of your agility foundation training, pretty much all of it for a young puppy away from equipment. You don't really go on equipment for a very long time. You may introduce a mat, but a lot of it isn't anything to do with agility, but it's those foundations for agility. And then a third one, I'd say, get your obedience there first. Get your puppy to respect you, to listen to you, get all the obedience basics down to a T first, and just teach your puppy to listen to you and look to you. Once that's there, then teaching them the actual agility later on in life will be so much easier, so much quicker, and just way more enjoyable. But it's all about the foundations and not rushing time-wise, not rushing skills and difficulty-wise. And yeah, that is pretty much my tips. And just start with the proper basics, start with obedience, start with the little things, and don't rush. So those are my tips. So number 6 is, what do you recommend for a terrier that isn't toy driven? Great question for me, because this little girl sat next to me, you probably can't see her on screen, but she was the definition of a terrier that isn't toy driven. And she never was. I did try. I remember me and Lucy tried, because you can get those treat clams, can't you, that you put treats in, throw them, and then the dog goes and sticks their nose in it and gets it out. We tried a tug, like a treat pocket tug. Again, she didn't really want to tug with it. She just wanted to open it and get the food out. So we tried that for a while, but she never got any more drivey to a ball or a tug if there wasn't food involved. So my advice for that situation is, don't use a toy, use food. If a terrier isn't toy driven, use what it is driven for. Does that make sense? Not just a terrier, any dog. If your dog isn't driven by toys, but is driven by food, use food. You're going to get so much more out of that dog, and who cares what you use as long as it is good for the dog. So Ethel, cheese. She was obsessed with cheese, so guess what she got at the end? Guess what I showed her before her runs, and guess what she got at the end of her runs? Cheese. And she loved agility, and she was as fast as she could be. She was pretty driven, I'd say, for a little terrier. And yeah, just work to your dog's strengths, and you don't need to have a toy driven dog. Arrow, I tried to tug with him when he was little, and he wasn't having it. So I thought, okay, what does he like? Oh, he likes his ball. I know that's still a toy, but the point still stands. Work with your dog. Don't try and make your dog into something that it isn't, just because, most dogs are toy driven. It's cool to have a dog that tugs. Doesn't matter. Again, this goes back to my episode I did a few weeks ago about agility trends, that, what was it? Overrated and underrated agility trends. So having a dog that tugs, probably a trend, but very overrated. It doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter what your dog likes, as long as it likes something. Find what it likes, try lots of different things, and then it's going to like one thing more than others, so use that. Just use it. But obviously you can try with a toy, buy those things that I use with Ethel that I just said. But if that still doesn't work, and if you're really desperate for a toy driven dog, try those. If not, and if it doesn't work, or if you're not that bothered, just use food or whatever your dog is driven by. So number 7 is, do I have to get super fit before starting agility? No, you don't. Again, it depends what level you want to do agility at. Obviously, as you know, I'm big into fitness and handler fitness for agility, especially. I think being fit helps no end. Like, it's crazy how much me getting fit outside of agility, so the gym, running, swimming, stuff like that, it's crazy how much that has helped me. With agility, I feel way fitter and more capable of running faster, and obviously talking to Arrow during a run, and keeping up with a fast dog like that, and being more agile on my feet, changing directions, sprinting off, stuff like that from a standstill. So it is really helpful, and I do recommend it, and I place it in quite high importance. But you don't have to get really fit before you start agility. You don't even have to get fit before you start agility. But it's just going to help you. Again, you don't have to be fit to do agility, and you can do distance handling if you want to teach that, which is a whole other topic. So no, you don't have to get super fit before you start. But once you start and you end up running courses, you'll probably find, this would be a lot easier and more enjoyable if I was a bit fitter, maybe. So then you can start having a look into getting fitter. But no, simple answer, no, you don't. Oh, my voice broke. No, you don't have to get super fit before you start agility. Again, some people place that in more high importance than others, but you don't have to. So, number 8. I want to get into agility, but it seems all-consuming, time and money-wise, and I want to maintain a social life. Can I do both? Great question. So I actually have an episode called Balancing Life and Agility. That was one of my early episodes last year, I think, when I first started the podcast, but that was very popular, and I think that's super important. So I'm going to link that in the description of this podcast, and you can go check that out. I'll see if I can put it on the screen as well on YouTube, and you can go have a listen to that, because of course you can do both. I do both. I still do both to this day. I like to think that I compete at quite a high level in agility. Obviously, my dogs are grade 7. I've competed for Team GB, and I'm prioritising Champ and all the qualifiers, Crufts, Olympia, stuff like that, competing at Crufts, qualifying for Crufts. So, I'm doing all the things, but I'd still say I have a really good social life. And I don't think, to be honest, each to their own. Some people, all they do is agility, but that isn't me. I don't, doing one thing to the absolute extreme doesn't suit me too well. I love to have a balance of everything in life. That is just how I function the best. And I do really, some people don't enjoy it, but I do really enjoy going out with my friends, going out for meals, drinks, clubs sometimes, bars, stuff like that, or even not just nightlife, like spending a day going biking with a friend, or going shopping into town and going to Starbucks, stuff like that. I do a lot of that kind of stuff that has nothing to do with even the dogs, which I love. And then I also do agility. And I'd say, again, I don't mean to big myself up, but I think I'm doing quite well in agility. So I'd like to think that I am proof to you who asked this question that is possible and you don't have to worry about it. Yes, it is very consuming time and money-wise. To be honest, most of my weekends are agility, but, I do a lot of going to shows on a Saturday, and then when I come home from a show, I'll have a shower, get ready and go out for a meal or drinks. That's like the perfect day for me. And then sometimes I'll have a show on a Saturday and then do something on the Sunday, or vice versa. I usually try and just do one day of a show at this point, unless it's really local or like a major show, because it is too much doing 2 days in one go. A day of agility is tiring, never mind more than one day. So I do like to leave one day of the weekend open. Also, having a job, like I have a job. I know it's only part-time, but I still need to make the money to do agility. So, obviously I've got to leave time for work, and I don't just want to work and do agility. I need some downtime, some fun time too. So you just gotta, whatever you prioritise, just make sure you've got time for it. But it is very possible to have balance. I think I have a very balanced approach to life. Money-wise as well, I would rather do slightly less shows and have money left over to go on a night out and spend 50 quid, or go on a meal even and spend 50 quid at a fancy restaurant, or go out for lunch, or, go and do a different activity. I don't know, paintballing, anything with my friends. I'd rather leave some money left over for that. I like going shopping, buying clothes, stuff like that. So I want to have some money to do those things as well. Obviously want to save a bit of money, got to pay just the things that I need to pay out every month. So again, it's all about balancing, but it is very possible. You just got to choose what you prioritise. But if you're like me and you do want to do a balance, yes, it is more than possible, and have a look at that episode for more information. So, number 9, my dog doesn't have an athletic build. Can I still do agility? I don't think Ethel is the most athletic build. Earl definitely wasn't, and I did agility with both of them. Especially Ethel did brilliantly. She was on Team GB. She's quite a short, stocky dog. She's sort of, I think of her as more like a square shape, like a brick. But she was brilliant at agility. There was no issues there. The only thing that I would say is, again, it depends what kind of non-athletic build. Ethel was still, and is still, structurally sound and fit and healthy. But if you've got like a dachshund with a really long back, or a pug with a really short snout that struggles to breathe, that kind of non-athletic build, yes, maybe you can't. Well, I do know someone with a dachshund that does agility really well, actually. But again, it just depends. My actual answer to that question, can I still do agility? Yes, of course. Give it a go. I'm sure it'll be fine. But again, each dog to their own. Some dogs their build may make it uncomfortable for them. But you will know, use your common sense. But yes, you can do agility with a dog that isn't typically athletically built. And a lot of those dogs, you can train them, and they will be, a bit like us going to the gym. Someone can look not very athletic, and then 6 months of the gym and they have a new athletic body. So, with more fitness training and conditioning and agility, a dog will get fitter, build more muscle, get used to that kind of training, and probably have more of an athletic structure. But, you just got to be sensible. Like I said, if it's a pug that can barely breathe because it's got such a short snout, then agility probably isn't the best idea for it, especially in the summer. Or if you do have like a long-backed, long-bodied dog that looks in discomfort, when it's doing turning or whatever, then maybe that's not a great idea, but use your common sense. But usually if your dog doesn't look athletic, you can still do agility and you'll probably find that it helps with its fitness anyway. So number 10, I'm too nervous to enter my first competition. How do I overcome this? This is so common. I still get nervous, well, not to enter obviously, but when I'm doing competitions. I found that the more sort of important stuff I do and did in my agility career, the less nervous I get about normal shows. And I do see those as more like training shows. And once you get to grade 7, obviously, you don't need more wins really in the normal classes. So you do have, your perspective just changes. So just think along those lines. Everyone's perspective is different, and it's only as nerve-wracking and important as you choose for it to be, if that makes sense. So if you go, it's all about your mindset. So if you go into a competition, just get it entered first. Stop faffing about, you're just putting it off and procrastinating. And we know exactly what happens when we procrastinate. It doesn't get done. Get it done, get it entered. And then in the lead up, try and adopt the mindset of it's not that big a deal. It's not that important. If it all goes horribly wrong, I'll be fine, which you will. And I'll have so many more opportunities. Obviously, don't enter a competition if your dog isn't trained up enough to be able to handle it. So if you think your dog will run off or run into another ring, again, if you and your dog have the capabilities there at training, for example, but you're just too nervous to compete, go for it. If you and your dog just aren't at the training level to compete yet, just hold off a bit, train more. And the more training you do, remember, the more confidence you'll get in your ability and your dog's ability, and the more confident you'll be to enter a show. Because you'll go in thinking, I know me and my dog can do this because we've done it so many times at training. This is just a different environment. So just try and change your perspective a little bit. Think it's not that important. Don't expect to do brilliantly at your first show. It's your first show. No one does brilliantly at their first show. Well, maybe some people do, but don't expect to. Usually people don't. It takes a few to get into it. So I wouldn't say low expectations because that sounds really negative, but just don't expect to win it all and don't think I need to win it all. Just chill and do it. You'll love it. So 11 is, I'm an introvert. How do I make friends or join a friend group within agility? Again, probably quite common, especially in young people. So if I've got young listeners, took me a while to make some friends. I think I kind of just didn't to start with when I was like, 10, 11, 12, 13, even 14, 15. I think I was maybe 14 or 15 when I started sort of mingling with people my age in agility. So I'd been doing it quite a few years. But one, fake it till you make it, which I'm brilliant at. I would say I'm naturally an introvert, which is probably weird for you all to hear because I feel like I act like an extrovert and act pretty confident. And I built my own confidence over time by putting myself in situations even though they scare me. And then that makes me realise, that's fine, that's not actually scary at all. So just make yourself do things and fake it till you make it. Think, I'm an extrovert and act like one. And then you'll get used to it. I know that's really weird advice, but it's sometimes the only way. If you're that determined to mingle and have a social life in agility and make friends, you've got to put yourself in the situations to do so. You can't wait until people come up to you because that's, often people feel just as introverted and nervous as you. So you be the one to go out and initiate it. And you can literally make it happen. Go into a friend group. I've done it before and made some best friends that I'll have for life and that I'm still best friends with today. And I go out and see them outside of agility. And I was the one who sort of put myself in the situation to go up to them and join their group that was sort of pre-existing. And it was nerve-wracking. But, imagine if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have those best friends. So you've just got to put yourself into those situations, put yourself out there. Yes, it'll be a bit nerve-wracking, but it'll really pay off. Fake till you make it. Think, I'm an extrovert, I'm confident, and go out and talk to people. That's all I can really advise. I know it's not easy, but it's worth it, and it's what I did. So number 12, do you recommend grading up via wins or points? Super interesting. I have actually never graded up through points. Again, each their own. And again, sometimes I suppose if your dog is sort of steadier maybe and getting loads of seconds or thirds or something in a grade and is always smashing out those clears on those easier low grade courses, but just missing out on those wins for ages by like a few seconds, then feel free to grade up on points, because if you and your dog are ready for those higher grades, go for it. If it's holding you back, go for it. I'd say don't progress on points if you don't feel ready. You and your dog have to feel ready for that next grade. I've never used points. I prefer to go on wins, because it just helps me know, we are definitely ready for the next grade. The last thing you want to do is go up too early and put yourself and your dog off. I went up on wins, obviously with Arrow, to grade 6 and 7. Well, I went on wins for every grade, but especially 6 and 7. I did post about this recently. And to be honest, it put me off, because I did go up quite quickly once he started doing agility classes, because obviously he just did jumping for a while to get his confidence. And we went into those 6-7 classes, and the courses were super hard. I hadn't trained some of the skills, and it knocked both of our confidence for a while. We've regained that now pretty much. Still not as consistent as we were in the lower grades, obviously, but getting there. So just beware that you may have your confidence knocked a little bit, and if your dog is sensitive or nervous, then that may also knock their confidence if they're not ready. But there's nothing you can do. If you win and you go up. But if you have the choice and you have enough points but not the wins, just see how you feel. Are you ready? Realistically, be realistic and a little bit harsh here. Am I and my dog ready for these grades and these grade courses? Watch those grade courses that are the next ones up from you and think, can I do those kind of skills? If not, stay in the low grades and use those courses as more confidence while you go away and train those skills. But if you think, yeah, easy, I can do it, been waiting for this for ages, the lower courses are way too easy, do it, go for it, push yourself. So again, it's personal. I would usually not go on points and just go on wins. But, if you are in that situation where you're just missing out on the wins, but you're clearly ready, then go for it. Number 13, are you happy that you got into agility? And I know who asked this question, and it is a great question. 50-50. I think you'd probably expect me to say, oh, yes, absolutely. And yes, I am, 100%. Okay, right. So yes, I am really happy that I got into agility. It is my thing. It is my identity. I love it, and it has done so much for me. My confidence, I've achieved so much. It's given me so many credentials, all the things. So yes, however, there are things that I think, not even agility, but just having dogs, you don't realise when you're young and you're 8 years old or whatever, and you want dogs, you don't quite realise the extent of how all-consuming they are. So, money, time, and a major thing that I think at the moment is sort of something that I kind of didn't think of when I first got into dogs and agility is I have to work certain hours now. So I work 3 till 9, and I need to be self-employed if I want to go full time, because obviously I'm still living at home. My parents work until 4 or 5. So if I work at 3, then Arrow is they're both only on their own in the house for an hour or so. But, I couldn't do a 9-5. Well, I wouldn't want to do a 9-5, but you know what I mean? I couldn't work in the morning because they'd be on their own for like 5 hours if I worked through the day before 3 p.m, So there's little stuff like that, thinking if I didn't have that responsibility there's more I could do. So sometimes that's frustrating, but obviously still worth it in my opinion. But that is a consideration. Another thing, like I said, agility is very expensive. I'd have way more money to do other things. I don't have holidays. Casey and Dogs in Need, that's my holiday for the year. I don't have holidays abroad because one, I can't afford it because I spend most of my money on agility, and two, obviously I can't go off on holiday unless my parents are also at home on holiday because I can't leave the dogs by themselves at home while they're at work. So it has to be in the time that at least one of my parents is on holiday for however long I want to go on holiday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So there are things that, I guess it's like having a child, isn't it? There are restrictions placed on you in what you can and can't do in life when you have the responsibility of a dog, and when you do agility and your weekends are taken up by agility. But you can still balance it, like I said in that question earlier. It just takes a bit of effort and doing, but it is very much possible and it is very rewarding. But yes, I'd say I am 99% happy that I got into agility, but every now and again, if I'm having a bad week and I just want to chill, or I want to go on holiday, or, I want to do something at this time, but I can't, or if I can't afford, I'm having a pretty skint month because I've just paid for a load of shows up front, then there is that little 1% that creeps in and thinks, oh, it'd be so much easier without this. But overall, yes, I am happy that I got into agility. Number 14, what would you do differently if you could go back to the start of your agility journey? Okay, so I've done these live questions, live answers to these questions so far, and felt like it flowed and my answers came easily. It's not doing for this one. If I could go back to the start of my agility journey, I don't know what I'd do differently. I don't think I'd do anything differently, but I think I would try and change my mindset around it. So say if I could tell my younger self as I was getting into agility some advice, it would be to not take it so seriously. And to probably keep my options a bit more open. So I was obsessed when I was younger. I did not have that balance that I have now. I didn't want it until I was older. But it would be to keep more of a balance, keep more of my options open. For example, education. I have a degree in canine behaviour, and all of my experiences and qualifications are to do with dogs and animals, which is great because of what I want to do. Obviously, I want to be a dog groomer, but at the moment, it's a bit like, well, I can't really do a lot else until I get to that stage because all my qualifications are so niche. Again, I don't think I'd do that differently. It's something to consider, but I probably would go down the exact same route I have. But I would tell myself to change my mindset, take it less seriously, try and place less importance on how well I did in agility. Stop basing my sort of worth on how well I do in agility. Don't look at it as my entire personality and identity, like I have done really through my sort of childhood of doing agility. And try and get that balance in a little bit earlier. Maybe don't do as much as soon. I just went full force into it and I was completely obsessed. And I think that has ended up, it did make me resent it at one point. Or a few points, it was too much. I was sick of it almost. But, finding that balance has brought the fun back into it and the love back into it. It doesn't feel like a chore now. It feels like something I do want to do, but then I can go and do something else. And then when I'm doing that other thing, it makes me think, oh, I haven't done agility in a while, in like a week. Or I missed last week. I wasn't competing this weekend. I'm looking forward to going back next weekend. If that makes sense. And then, when you've had a big weekend of agility, you can think, oh, I'm looking forward to going back tonight and, going out for some drinks and chilling, stuff like that. So, get that balance in sooner, but mainly just don't place as much importance on it mentally. That is the main thing I would tell myself. Just chill, basically. Number 15, and this is the last question, is what is your best piece of advice for those wanting to get into agility? This is really hard because there's so much I have said and could say for this question, but my one best piece of advice, that's tricky. I'd probably say either don't rush or don't take it too seriously. Okay, I'm going to go with, to combine those two, my best piece of advice, go for it for the right reasons. So start first. So first and foremost, if you want to get into agility, get into agility if it's possible. But get into it because you really want to go in and have fun and enjoy yourself and do something that will make you feel good. Don't go into it just because you're thinking, I want a career out of this or I want success. Go into it head first for the right reasons, of just because you want to. You love dogs, you love your dog, you love the thought of agility, you love training your dog, and you want to challenge yourself and your dog. So yeah, that I'd say that's my best piece of advice. Go into it head first, do it for the right reasons, and chill and have fun with it, and do it because you love it. That is my best piece of advice. If that is all the questions, if you want any more advice or have any more questions around this topic, just send me a message. I'll put all my social media links here on the screen, on YouTube, and down below on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow me on all of those as well. I'm active on most of those very regularly, especially Instagram and stories pretty much every day. TikTok I've been getting more into recently. I actually had a recent TikTok go, not viral, but like quite popular. So go have a look at that. I do love making TikTok videos. And yeah, please leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would mean the world to me. Ideally 5 stars, I do love that. But yeah, I'm really hoping you're enjoying it, and keep sending me your guest requests and episode idea requests. I'm thinking of doing that live episode on Instagram coming up, so I'll do a live Q&A with you guys and then record it and upload it as a podcast episode. So if you think that's a great idea, let me know. And I still do want to do some episodes where I video call you guys, my listeners. I think that would be quite fun. So if you'd like to do that, message me with ideas of what we could talk about in the episodes, if you have any topics. So yeah, some fun stuff planned, and I will talk to you all next Wednesday. You know the drill. Bye!